He's gonna die. He's gonna fight me. He's a big Viking. He thinks he's awesome.
Hey everybody, this is me, Undead Viking. I want to talk to you about this game. It is called Revenge of the Dictators. Revenge of the Dictators puts you in the role of a dictator who is trying to take over the United States of America. This is a game where you're going to be traveling across the land and you're going to be playing cards that help yourself to get to your end goal, and you're going to be playing cards that will hinder your opponents from getting to their end goal, because you're all kind of racing to be the one to take over the nation. Now, it's easier said than done. Basically, you have to kind of show off your power as you make your way across the United States by going and stealing and disarming nuclear weapons. You don't have to do that, as I'll explain when I show you how to play the game. But if you do, being able to defeat or take over the nation will be much easier, because you've shown how just evil and how mastermindy you are. This is definitely a game of kind of lighthearted backstabbery, if you will. But it has a lot of strategy going on. It has like some wonderful elements of like what I call like signature moments when I play games, like those things that like kind of grab me and make me laugh and make me chuckle or make me curse, and that's, for me, a lot of times when I play games, that's what I like. I like that shared exuberance that the table or the game brings out in me and my friends. So let me show you how the game of Revenge of the Dictators is played, and then we'll come back here and I'll talk more about that I just talked about. All right, cool. This is Revenge of the Dictators, and you can probably tell this is a map of the 49 states. Take a guess which one's missing. That's right, Alaska. They couldn't put Alaska on the map. That's okay. We don't need Alaska to take over the good old US of A. Now, this is a prototype that I was sent, so keep that in mind as I show you how to play this game. This game is for 2 to 5 players. All 2 to 5 players start down here in Hawaii. The idea is that each one of you is this retired dictator basking in the glow of a vacation. You kind of all run into each other at the same time, and you all decide, you know what, let's try to take over the United States of America. And so what you're going to do is you're going to be leaving Hawaii and you're going to be heading to the United States, and you're going to be trying to make your way over to Washington, D.C., where then you can confront the president and hopefully convince him to give you control of the nation to you. Now, along the way, to kind of show your power and show your ability, you have to disable these nuclear areas. And I think the idea is that when you disable these nuclear zones you can kind of see all these symbols, you see these big blocky things, I'll explain those in just a little bit. You're taking, I'm guessing, the fissionable material or what have you, and maybe creating your own bomb, so you have some leverage. And what happens at the very beginning of the game, well, for starters, the beginning of the game, each person is going to get one of these cards that looks like a passport. And these passports are actually, in fact, which dictator you will be playing in the game, like Fidel Castro and so forth. Well, actually, it isn't. It's Fidel Castro. And so then each one obviously has like certain abilities or whatever. So you can see here with Fidel Castro, he starts the game with 6 cards instead of 4, and you have a maximum hand size of 7 instead of 5. So you just have certain abilities that will break the rules. Here we have Mao Zedong, which when drawing a card, you may choose to draw the top card of the command deck pile or the top card of the discard pile. You can't draw your own playing cards, and it's usually only once per turn. So, like I said, just variable player powers, little ways that you can break the rules and what have you. And because of the fact that they've kind of made like these, steeped in history but also cartoonish, it kind of adds a little bit of levity and a little bit of whimsy to it, otherwise what could be a very grim themed game. But anyway, so the next thing you're going to get after you find out who you're going to be is you're going to get one of these cards from each nuclear zone. So I'm going to go ahead and grab those. And what these will be is these are the different nuclear areas that you need to deconstruct. And you can't do any, sometimes they can get switched, but you can't ever deconstruct or take down a nuclear zone that isn't yours to take down. So we have Iowa, and then we have Michigan, and then we have Massachusetts, and finally Nova Scotia. Now you might notice that Nova Scotia is up here. Now, the thing is that the first 3, 1, 2, and 3, those count towards your ability to impress the President of the United States to give you control of the nation. The 4th one doesn't give you that, but it does give you a special ability. Now, there are a bunch of these these tokens that you can see here, and some of them, well, actually all of them, but they all have like a Roman numeral on the back of the token, so you don't know which one it is. And like everybody's going to get one of these little player reference cards, so you know how to play. And on the back, basically, when you get that token, it gives you a special ability that you can use. And you then, once you have that, you can you know, just like, you can keep it secret, you can show it off, you can do whatever you want, but then it's just some special little token that you can use at some point in the game. I like that. I always like games that have like hidden information, so that you never know exactly what you're going to get, so you're kind of like, oh, it could be anything, so it's just, and all those different special abilities will like kind of stir the game up or whatever, as far as how the game plays out. And I always love stuff like that. I don't mind deterministic games, but when you have a game that has some kind of like a secrecy to it, I always love games, like I said, more cards than you actually need, which is another thing this game does, because you have this giant deck of cards that you'll be drawing from. And these cards have several different types of cards, which I'll explain here in just a little bit. But one of the types of cards that they have, and I want to touch on this, is the Founding Fathers cards. And all these cards, they look the same on the back, the Revenge of the Dictators on the back. But the Founding Fathers cards, you draw 2 of these randomly and you put them in the deck. So they're not all in the deck to begin the game. But you can actually add more as the game progresses. But these have, like, basically these are the epitome of truth, justice, and the American way. And so if you draw one of these cards, bad stuff happens to you. So you don't want to draw these. And they stay in place until either the card tells you you discard them, or you can get rid of them in some way. Like, some of them will have this little symbol down here that says 3. This, like, effect could last 3 turns. So it's like, you can't... it's one of those things where, if it doesn't have that on there, you're going to have to come up with another way to get rid of it. Also, like, I like this one, like, you have to play with an open hand. So, like, all the players know exactly what you're capable of doing, things like that. If you can get rid of it, if you draw another Founding Father card, you get to get rid of the one that you have. You can't have more than one Founding Father card in front of you. But there are other ways to get rid of permanent cards as well, that you can, like, eventually possibly discard them because of the fact that they are detrimental to what's happening to you. Alright, so the other types of cards that you have are like different action cards, but also there are these cards that say DEFCON on them, and those will be shuffled in. The DEFCON cards will cause the DEFCON total here to slowly work its way down from the 5 to 4 to 3 to 2 to 1. Now, as each level gets further and further down, more and more things happen. So at the very beginning with DEFCON 5, everything's fine, everything's cool, no worries. But the first time you get a DEFCON is you place roadblock tokens between each road between the border of Nuclear Zone 1 and 2. And so roadblock tokens are just exactly that. They are going to block roads. And as you can see, there are like all these little crisscrossing little paths or whatever. Those are obviously roads, and those are how you are going to travel back and forth. But if you have a roadblock token blocking a road, you can kind of guess, obviously that is a roadblock. Now, normally you can't get past a roadblock, but once again, there are cards within this giant deck that will allow you to get past that, like stealth fighters, or like taking an Amtrak, taking a train, or a helicopter, or what have you. And those are all within that card. And so, like, as you can see, there's always going to be, like, as the game progresses, there's going to be things that are going to happen that are going to impede your progress, but then also, like, some of them are going to be placed by your opponents, and some of them are going to be placed by the game themselves. There is also these tokens, which are the no-fly zone tokens, and those go directly into a time zone when it tells you, like, to place in a time zone. Now, these aren't the normal standard time zones. You can kind of see these little orange borders here. So when no-fly zone happens, basically nobody can travel in, nobody can travel out, and if you're stuck in there, you got to figure out a way to get out. And there are, once again, cards that will allow you to get out of those time zones. So that's just another thing that can happen. Also, I just want to touch you, like, other DEFCON phases. So when you get to DEFCON 3, you actually add more of the Founding Fathers into the giant deck. When you get to DEFCON 2, you take the top 20 cards of the command deck, if there's still cards in the deck, and then you put it in the discard pile. But you got to also make sure that you take all the Founding Fathers in the DEFCON, so they leave them in there. Because the faster you go through this deck, the tougher and tougher the game's going to go. So when you get to DEFCON 2, you're kind of just speeding up the game. And finally, when you get to DEFCON 1, basically that's going to trigger the end of the game. Everybody gets 2 more turns, and if nobody manages to take over the nation, the game is over, and you all lose. You're all like captured or what have you, and your coup or your takeover of the United States just will not occur. So on your turn, you're going to get 3 actions, and also remember, like I said, you get 4 cards to begin the game. And I'm just going to show you, I drew 4 cards before I started, so we can just kind of show what these do. Alright, the 4 cards I got were like a really, really good fake ID. You put this down, and this little number down here, that's how many like actions it takes. Normally you get 3 actions a turn. I'll get more into that in just a little bit. But the card stays in play until removed, so, unless, somebody takes it away. And you get a permanent +1 on your die roll, which is always good. You're going to be rolling D6s a lot of the time, and you roll that D20 to see if you take over the world. So then here's one. Reinforcements have arrived. It's an action. Starting with you, each player draws a card. So everybody's going to get bonus when you do this, but obviously then it helps to everybody. Here's the whistleblower. You take the top 5 cards of the presidential deck, which is that deck way up there, but I'm going to talk about that in just a little bit. So you might not know, why does the presidential deck matter? Well, if you're going to take over the nation, you need the presidential deck. But anyway, so that's another one. And here is a red card is an interruption card. So you play at the start of an opponent's turn to control their turn, and then you lose your next turn. So basically you take somebody else's turn, and and then control what they do, so you can kind of screw with them. If they're like making their way to Washington D.C., you could shove them back the other way, do all kinds of things like that. And then, but obviously, then you miss your turn. But it might be useful for you to do so to do that. All right. So when it is your turn, you have 3 actions. Sometimes you have more. If you have a situation or a rule that will break the rule, then go ahead and do that. But normally it's 3. You can travel once. Now, traveling is just going along one of these lines, if you will. So going from here to Oregon, that would be a travel. You can only do a travel action once, unless, once again, you have something that breaks the rules. But normally you can only travel once, and you go to that location. And that would be that. You can draw a card from the command deck as an action, or you can play action cards depending upon the number of actions it takes to play those. You can do those as many times as you want, except for travel. You can only do once, but you're limited to obviously the number of actions you have and also the number of actions it takes to do something. Now, you might notice these dotted lines here are travel lines as well. That's considered international travel, and that takes an extra action to pull off. So like you have to, you can say, okay, I'm going to travel here. It's my travel action plus another action to go from Hawaii over to Mexico City. So just because of the fact that you have to use your passport and whatever, and just customs and what have you, or maybe you're sneaking in because you probably aren't you probably don't have anything to declare, honestly, if you're trying to take over the nation. But regardless, that's what happens with that. Now, there are other things that you can do, like if you are in the spot where your nuclear facility is, you can attempt to disable it. You have to spend your travel action to do it. So you can't move to it and immediately attempt to disarm it. So like, let's say Yellow had to disarm over here in Minnesota, my home state. If you had to disarm in Minnesota, which, I'm just going to say one thing. North Dakota has, and I lived in North Dakota for 35 years, North Dakota has hundreds upon hundreds of nuclear warheads and missiles, and apparently we don't have any nuclear material in my home state of North Dakota. But regardless, I live in Minnesota now, so I guess I don't care. But anyway, so Minnesota has that nuclear, so if you had that Minnesota card, you would then if after you traveled there, remember you can't use your travel action, and you have to use your travel action to attempt it, and another action, and then you're just going to roll a die. And it's just a simple thing. If you roll 3 through 6, you succeed. And so you roll it, and I rolled a 4. And so if you have that, you turn over the fact that you had that card. You don't have to do these in order. It's just the zone that they happen to be in. I mean, sometimes it'll make sense, because it'll be a good progression as far as moving in that direction to do those things. But so then you show that card to show that you've done it, and then you can go upon your merry way. Now, I should mention that since you can draw cards and you can spend all 3 actions to draw cards, you do have a maximum hand limit, as that card Fidel Castro said, of 5. If you're more than that, obviously you're going to have to discard down to 5 before your turn is over. Oh, and I should mention, I can't believe I forgot this. I mentioned about the no-fly zones. You can't even fly over the no-fly zones either. So when the no-fly zones actually happen, you'll end up having to be clever, where you're going to like go to British Columbia and then move your way around. You know, like if this was a no-fly zone, you'd have to figure out a way to get around it, or figure out a way to cancel that no-fly zone to happen. And the no-fly zones happen because of different cards and events and things that happen as the game progresses. So if you finally make it to Washington D.C. and you have you don't have to have disabled any of the nuclear zones that you possibly needed. If you didn't disable any, you still have a shot, albeit not a great shot, but you still have a shot at convincing the president to forfeit up control of the nation to you. What you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and grab this presidential deck of cards, as I mentioned earlier, and you're going to go ahead and have this little cool presidential seal on it, and then you just draw one and you turn it over. And on the back, it's going to tell you what happens. So, this one says Agent Smith. The CIA takes you to the CIA HQ in Virginia if you're in Washington, D.C. CIA takes you to Area 51 in Nevada if you're in Washington State. Sometimes the president will move to Washington. And trust me, if you've gone all the way over here to confront him, and then he moves over there, that is disappointing. But anyway, so you have to move your pawn to the appropriate place. So you have to go to the CIA headquarters right there. And so that, as it says, ends your turn immediately. So that would be unfortunate. In the deck also, I should point out, there is a DEFCON card as well. So that you can draw that, which can make things difficult as well. But what you're hoping for is something simple like this, where it says the president is present and you can try to confront him. Now there are other cards that you have where you can, if I find it here, that'll just affect your die roll. So the president is present and you can try to confront him. You get a -3 to your die roll. Or you can have one that I like, is this one, where it says, move your pawn to an adjacent state of your opponent's choice. And the reason I like that is because I had a situation in a game where a person got there, and I knew they had a better shot at getting president than I did, but I was able to move them into a location. I was able to move them out of Washington, D.C. into Virginia, and Virginia actually had a no-fly zone going on at that time, and so then they were trapped, basically. They couldn't get out, and then I was up here in Canada, and so I was able to work my way down and actually defeat them by that route. See, that's this game is that kind of game. It's definitely a game of backstabbery and screwing your neighbor over, but it is, like I said, it has strategy. It has a lot of stuff going on with it, but it is a little bit lighthearted, and you need to have a kind of a thick skin when you play the game. But regardless, that's totally the type of game I like, so I knew I was going to like this game as soon as the designer explained it to me. Finally, if you get to the point where you are going to confront the president, you are going to look at your disarmed nuclear facilities, zone 1, 2, and 3. And if you've done all 3, you have to roll an 8 or higher on the 20-sided. If you roll... If you roll, like, you only have 0, if you have 0, it's a 20. So, it's like, you have to, like... you're basically taking a gamble if you only have 20, but sometimes you have to just to win. So let's say I only got 2. So I have to get a 14 or better. And let's just see what happens here. So let's roll. 14! Yay! I just took over the nation. So there you go. So then I would be declared the winner in that case if I had rolled that and that was the situation that I had. So there you go. That should give you a really good idea of how to play the game. Like I said, there's a gajillion cards in here. I can't possibly tell all of them. Cancel the successful describing a nuclear facility by your opponents. These are the interrupt cards are probably the best part of the game, because like when somebody does something, it's like there's that pregnant pause where he's like, and I go ahead and I do this. Anyone? And so somebody plays a card to mess with it. Player to a player rolls a die. They must roll again. Stuff like that. And you probably played games like this. Or search the command deck, discard pile for a card, and put it into your hand. So there are tons of these, tons of different cards that you have. There's no way I could show you all of them. I invite you to go ahead and go check out the game page of Board Game Geek. Check out the Kickstarter page as well if you want to dive deeper into it. But like I said, I knew I was going to like this game. It has everything that I like about this type of game. But let me talk more about that in my conclusion, which I'll do right now. All right, thank you very much for getting through the how to play portion of the video. I hope you have a good idea of how to play the game. I do know the rules are available for download, so you can go ahead and take those and take a look at that. And that'll actually kind of describe more of the cards and what have you that I alluded to if you want to kind of delve a little deeper into the inner workings of Revenge of the Dictators. I didn't do that because in games like this where you have random cards and random things that happen, I like being surprised by them. I don't like being able to plan for stuff like that. And you can't really plan for it, obviously, because they're most likely either just going to show up when you draw the card, or like those Founding Father cards, or you know, they're just going to be in your opponent's hands when they play a card and they're going to kind of mess with you a little bit. But you know, these are the types of games that I really enjoy, and it can be tough to pull this type of game off, because if you have a situation where basically the game stagnates and you know, it's just you're waiting for that one person to get that perfect conjunction of cards together that will allow them to win the game. It gets ugly. You know, the game can kind of just be kind of just rolling in place and nothing really much is happening. Everybody's just kind of stuck at the same level. But this game defeats that in a couple different ways. One, it's timed. Eventually, you're going to go down on the DEF CON track and the game's just going to be over and nobody's going to win. But also, secondly, is the fact that you know, you have this delicate balance that you have to judge between both your insistency on like, you know, getting to the point where you can win, like getting to the nuclear facilities that are yours, getting to Washington, D.C., you know, going through your progress, and also, you know, being able to like set up traps or roadblocks or what have you to prevent your other players that you're up against from doing the exact same thing. And you have to balance that out. If you just stayed in Hawaii and messed with people the entire time, you're never going to win. But the thing is that what I loved about this game is that even if you were in last place, even if like you hadn't taken out a single nuclear spot that was yours, and everybody else was doing better, you still theoretically could get to Washington, D.C., get there, roll that die, and get a 20. And, you know, that hasn't happened personally in like about 8-9 times that we've played this game, but the possibility is there, and that would be like an epic victory. That would be something that you'd talk about for a long time, just because of the craziness of that possibility. And while we played this game, all kinds of like that crazy kind of like happenstance stuff has happened, and it's like one of those memorable stories, those memorable discussions that like I love about games like this. Like that story I told about the fact that I got to move the guy off of Washington, D.C., slam him with a no-fly zone, and then, you know, then I had like just all the time in the world to make my way down there, and then you know win the game, you know. And I just, there was one of those things that we laughed. I mean, the one guy didn't laugh, but the other people at the table laughed and had a really good time with that. And even though my buddy Craig wasn't all that happy about what happened, he definitely could recognize the fact that it was kind of, as I said, like an epic moment, if you will, of the game. And that's what this game is about. It isn't about like deep, you know, seated, you know, strategy, even though there is quite a bit here. It is about those signature moments, that signature fun that you have with your friends. And basically, if you're going to like this game, you're going to know you're going to like this game before you even get it and play it. I knew that if they could pull off this theme and pull off what they were trying to do, this was going to be a lot of fun. And sure enough, it was. This game is a blast. I can't wait to see the finished product. And I hope you want to go ahead and check it out and maybe put it on your game shelf as well once it is done. So, all right, cool. Well, that is Revenge of the Dictators. Do you have any questions about the game? By all means, go ahead, ask away. I'll try to answer those to the best of my ability. As always, I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video, and until next time, I am the Undead Viking, and I'm telling you to have yourself one heck of an awesome day. All right, bye-bye.